What's going on, everybody? Tim from Tirfon Orbital. The Jawas Junkyard Ronin. Fantastic hilt. So this is a commission that recently came across my desk. I do want to talk about a lot. A lot went into this particular install. Not only is it a removable Proffie soundboard install, but I did do some significant body work to the hilt as well. So I did weather this myself. And I also did a traditional-ish Tsuka-ito wrap on the hilt itself. And this was the first time I've actually done a wrap like this. So I did want to talk about a little bit my process with that, just in case anyone is curious. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's talk about the hilt. We'll talk about the chassis. I'm not going to go over like in detail the chassis. The chassis for this particular build doesn't have a lot of greebly work. It's just like a nice plain-ish chassis, but I do want to talk about the weathering. So, without further ado, let's do it, right? So this is the Jawas Junkyard Ronin. As you can see, this is not how you get a Ronin from Jawas. I did the Tsuka-ito. I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing this for the remainder of the video, so bear with me. So this is a traditional Tsuka-ito wrap. The client sent me the materials for this wrap. So this is ray skin. This white part is actual real ray skin. And that is underneath the Ito, which is this black. So the Ito is the black wrap that is over that ray skin. The client also sent these brass pieces that I wrapped underneath the Ito as well. The hilt has also been weathered, and I don't know if you can see very well on video, but I just did the usual aluminum black treatment with this. I did have to take off some of the anodization first, and then I aluminum blacked it, and then I went into a lot of the edges. So when you're weathering something, when I'm weathering something, naturally, the first thing that's going to start wearing is the raised edges. So I go over all of the raised edges with some high grit sandpaper and knock back some of that. So then you start to see the aluminum underneath that. And then I also did a pass with some burnt sienna, like a burnt sienna wash to give it a rusty look. And I did that in a lot of these crevices and these holes in the hilt itself, right? Another challenge for me was this wrap. The client wanted as traditional as possible, and luckily for me, the client knew that this would be my first attempt at a wrap like this. So what I ended up doing was I cut the ray skin to size, right? So before I did anything, I made sure that the ray skin was the right proportions for the grip, and I kind of folded it around the outside of the grip, and I actually did use a little bit of rubber cement along the seam of that ray skin just to keep it in place, right? And then I wrapped it with electrical tape, adhesive side out, while that rubber cement cured, right? And I did left it to cure overnight. So then I knew that my ray skin was in place and it was good to go. I had to make some holes in the ray skin itself because I wanted to make sure that this part was on the outside of the wrap. I didn't want to wrap around this, and I didn't want the wrap to start below it either. I thought that would look weird. So I had to make sure that I had the holes in the ray skin in the right spot. This ray skin is the strangest material to work with. It's almost like a hide, a cow hide, but it's very, very stiff. So to work with it, I actually I put it under some hot water to get it to be a little bit more malleable for me. And as I formed it around the grip, I just kind of let it dry and cool down, and then it just kind of held that form, and then I glued it. But it's super, super rough stuff. For some reason, I always assumed that ray skin and shark skin was soft and like malleable, and that wasn't the case with this particular one. And then I went around the outside of it with the Ito, that is this black cord or fabric. And that's another thing about this you know, Tsuka-ito wrap, it's such a simple, let me come down here. It's such a simple wrap. It really is a simple wrap, but the technique is what tripped me up, right? So I mean, all you're doing is making X's all the way down the grip, but you're folding over twice that Ito, and that's what gives it that thinner X as they cross one another. It was confounding to me because it's in theory it's a simple wrap, right? But in execution, I mean, it's a beautifully simple wrap is the words I'm looking for, right? And after 3 tries, I mean, my first pass didn't look so good. My second one was okay. I got caught up on the fact that the diamonds weren't equal all of the way down. And the fact of the matter is, if I spent any more time on it, I would have driven myself crazy. And luckily for me, the client was okay with the fact that it was my first attempt, and the client was okay with it looking, you know, not so perfect, right? Because it looks like it's been used. And one of the most important things to the client was that this hilt looked like it had been used and gone through the ringer. So, yeah, interesting first experience with it. I don't know that I would do it again. But it was a pleasure working with materials that I've never worked with before, right? So this real ray skin and this traditional Ito, it was really, really cool to do something different, something that I'd never done before, right? So let's talk about how to use this guy. The pommel on this hilt is a not threaded, obviously. It's a set screw pommel. So you want to unscrew that set screw and your pommel cap comes off, okay? Here is the chassis for this particular install. And like I said, it's not a crazy greebly filled chassis. I did do some embossing on the top here to make it look like it was a wrapped, like a samurai wrap along the top. I've got Ronin on one side and Tirfon Orbital on the other. Just nice and simple. 24mm speaker, 6 rail PCB, Proffie board sits here, and we also have a kill switch, right? So to put your battery in, spring side is your negative. You take the flat part of your battery, face it towards that negative terminal. So this was already on. If you don't hear an audible cue, you want to hit your kill switch, and then you're ready to go. So to put your chassis in, it does not matter which direction the chassis is facing. Just kind of slide it all the way in until it stops. Now the timing with this hilt is just so that when you put your pommel cap in, it presses and keeps it keeps the chassis pressing against this top PCB. So the PCB pins that make a connection to the rest of the hilt, like the switches and everything, is up here. Once you put that pommel cap on, it pushes the chassis into those pins, right? So what I do is just make sure your holes are lined up when you're putting your screw back in. And then tighten your set screw. Okay. I'm ready to go. Let's come down. So there are 2 switches here. The bottom switch is your main, top is your aux. Twist to activate is on. Let's put a blade in it. So to set your blade down into your hilt, you just want to kind of let it rest on those PCB pins. There is a set screw in between the top section of the hilt and the switch body, and then tighten that set screw. Okay, then you're ready to go. See what else we got on here.
Hello.
So one thing I noticed about this hilt, the hilt comes from Jawas. The grip on the hilt, rather, is thick. It's a super thick grip. So adding the extra layer of that shark or that ray skin and the Ito, it does make the grip a little bit thicker. I actually like that. It feels like you're holding a katana, in my opinion. I like it. So that's it. A nice quick rundown on the Jawas Junkyard Ronin. To the client, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. Thank you for trusting me with a first-time Tsuka-ito wrap. And to the viewers, thank you everybody for your support. If anyone has any questions about this build, please don't be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always.